every one of them has a message from someone that needs help solving the mystery. Oh man, it's so dark. I can't see my hand in front of my face. Oh!
It's a chupacabra. He beat me with his mouth.
Michael, why are you smiling?
Because now I know what I have to do. I'm gonna use my fist to beat the out of Chupacabra, the only thing I've never beaten the out of yet.
I say go, go, go. It doesn't get any better than that.
Welcome to Cordkillers. It is our mission, much like Mike Tyson, we have a mission to report the intel from the front lines of the cord-cutting revolution so that you, my friend, and I mean that when I say you are my friend, can watch what you want, when you want, where you want, on any damn device you please. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, there's only one good cord, and that's a killed cord. I guess eventually you should cut it. You should slay it first with your wizard powers. You should cast like a spell of resurrection, drop your butt on the cord's face, and then kill it again.
Unless it's an Ethernet.
And cut it. Unless it's Ethernet, because, well, then you wouldn't be...
Unless what you want to watch is on a cord.
Man, that's a good point.
Like,
and that may be the case for our opening video, the Mike Tyson mysteries. We missed this last week when we were talking about Comic-Con, but this is This is a real-ass show that they're going to have on Adult Swim, where it looks like it's a reimagining of all those Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
Very Scooby-Doo-like in its animation style, if you're looking for a touchstone.
And you could say Scooby-Doo-like, but like they all look the same.
It's from that era.
Yeah, right? They all had four guys and a thing that shouldn't talk.
Right.
And
then the monsters looked kind of buggy.
Yeah, exactly. And so I wonder how much... My guess is that the gimmick is that it's postmodern, ironic, whatever. But my guess is it'll very quickly kind of fall back into being what it's trying to make fun of. Does that make sense? Like at some level, nowadays, in order to, and we'll talk about this later with Guardians of the Galaxy, there's a little bit of a wink and a nudge to get you into it, like, oh, we're making fun of it, but also it's awesome because we're doing it.
And we're actually doing it better than it was done in the past. So, yeah. I get you there. Meanwhile, whether people will be watching things on television through cable or not is questionable in both our secondary and our primary targets.
Let's do the primary one first.
Obviously, that's why it's called primary.
Well, I mean, you say obvious, but...
I think it's obvious. But maybe it wasn't obvious to you. What is obvious is that DirecTV, Charter Cable, and Time Warner Cable, all in the United States, and you Europeans settle down. You're in the secondary target. But DirecTV, Charter, and Time Warner Cable all lost subscribers in the last quarter.
No, this must be a mistake, Tom. We got that story a while ago saying that cord killing was a myth and that nobody's losing subscribers. Revenues are up. And actually, I guess that part is true.
That's the part that is true. Nobody cares that they're losing subscribers because they're making more off of each customer, whether it's from the customers buying more expensive packages or just rate charges going up. For instance, DirecTV lost 34,000 subscribers, but income was up 22%. The average amount they make per customer up 4%. Charter lost 29,000 video customers, although they gained 49,000 broadband customers. They lost $45 million in income, but increased revenue per customer 2%. And Time Warner Cable lost 152,000 video customers, but gained 67,000 broadband customers. Their income up 3.7%, average per customer up 1.7%. So they're all seeing positive revenue pictures. Like, yeah, we're making more money. Who cares if people don't want to subscribe to video anymore?
Well, and to be honest, like that's the attitude we want them to have, right? Like if they're busy painting, in fact, in every way, this is a better picture. Like as much as we all hate our local cable company, as like last week we featured, you know, the cancellation call with Ryan Block that was disastrous. And there's all of us had this angersome relationship and some petty part of us wants to see them suffer. The fact is, if what you want is to watch what you want, when you want, on whatever device you want, this is the perfect scenario. You want to see video numbers going down, broadband numbers going up, and I'd hate to say it, you want to see these jerk-face cable companies continue to do well revenue so that they are pleased with making the transition. If you want to see unfair tactics, if you want to see politicians bought and paid for, if you want to see legislation that criminalizes the behavior that we all want to do, then you should be rooting for these companies to do financially poorly. If what you want is to legally transition, I think this is exactly what we want to see. Am I wrong?
That's adorable.
Oh, yeah, I'm optimistic.
Well, because I agree with half of what you're saying, which is if these companies do worse, if they lose money, you're just going to see them fight harder for laws that will protect their business
fight
model.
more unfairly.
You're right. That implies that they're not going to continue to fight unfairly to protect the losing parts of their business anyway. What we're seeing is cable companies saying, sure, we're making more money on broadband, but we don't want to be a dumb pipe. So we want to continue to be able to run a video business. And if our video subscribership goes down, that's a bad thing. And we need to fight tooth and nail to protect it and make a nice, comfortable transition to bring those people over to broadband subscribers where we can sell them triple play packages. Nobody at any of these companies is saying, well, we're making more money and we're increasing broadband subscribers, so let's just ease up on the fight for protecting our business model around video. That's not happening.
Let me try one other pitch on this. And keep in mind, none of these are things that I'm necessarily committed to, and I may be wrong about everything like I always am. But what's happened when we went independent is that we lost in the short term a number of viewers. However, our revenues per viewer went up because we were able to directly reach out to independent sources. That's kind of what's happening in a small way from their.
That's not their calculation, though. What they want is no loss of subscribers.
I'm sure,
and that's what the shareholders want. We don't have shareholders, so we can go, so we lost a few people in the van. It's fine. We'll be fine.
I guess the
difference between private ownership and public ownership.
Right. Well, and you know what? And actually, that does sort of short circuit the whole discussion at this point. But
and the other thing is, even though those subscriber numbers are going up for broadband, you still don't see them fighting fair and saying, hey, our subscribership's going up on broadband. We're making lots of money. Let's ease up on the anti-net neutrality and anti-competitive legislation. No, what you have is these cable companies going in and trying to pass laws in municipalities saying no one but us should be allowed to roll out broadband.
Right. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And by fair enough, I mean it's completely unfair, and I hate it.
But I think what is interesting here is that it is nudging, and this is the part that I totally agree with you. It is nudging them towards realizing that, oh crap, broadband is where we're gonna be making our money. So we need to.
Yeah, there's a question that somebody sent in, and we'll get to this when we get to dispatches from the front. That sort of brings up the question about bandwidth caps and how much they matter. And so we'll loop back around to this.
Yeah.
But I suspect I found myself in a weird position. The place I'm staying is a cell phone black hole. I barely get one bar.
Oh, I know. It's
so
weird over there.
Yeah,
I've
right.
noticed that. Yeah.
But because I have very good broadband, I just, I've told everyone who wants to call me on FaceTime audio, and we'll be able to do it. And even then, like FaceTiming with my kids, it'll work for about 90 seconds, 2 minutes straight, and then drop out, and then we just call each other again and again. And it's weird because on the one hand, I'm marveling that, when I think of my childhood, I remember the power went out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember cable went out all the time. And now that never happens. It's just there's always power unless there's a hurricane, some very major thing going out. And I realized all of a sudden, like, oh, crap, this video call going out over broadband is only going to happen less and less. And the idea that we'll ever be disconnected from broadband is going to become increasingly unfamiliar to us. So it's like, in that regard, it's good.
It's already better than it used to be broadband wise. Like I remember struggling with DSL to get video to stream for any particular amount of time. Now we get upset, we get outraged and start subreddit campaigns when one service has a little bit of buffering.
Exactly.
Like, that's how much progress we've made.
Yeah. Well, it's now nationwide news that Netflix is taking 4 seconds longer than you want it to, and it's like that's great. It's only going to get better and better. And when I was on This Week in Tech, I accidentally got into an argument with Jerry Purnell over this. He was just like, "Oh, all these people, you're crazy with your just-in-time management. Everything coming up last minute. That's not going to work in the long term." And I made the counterpoint. I was like, you know what else uses just-in-time management? My lungs, my heart, my liver. Like, this is what a healthy body does. It doesn't stock up a bunch of oxygen cells for use later. It brings it just when it's needed at the right time.
I do stock up fat cells.
See, then you and Jerry are on the same team. I don't want those fat cells.
All right, let's move on to the secondary target before our European audience gets upset. Because a UK research group called IHS Technology has put out a study showing growth in traditional pay TV is declining. If that sounds like a conundrum there, what they're saying is the rate of growth, right? So pay TV has been growing very steadily in Europe, but now it's slowing down. So instead of growing 10% every quarter, it's slowing down to 5%, let's say, or 2% in cases. And it's actually in 12 European territories that it declined in the first quarter of this year, like actual not growth, but going back and the numbers going down. That was Italy, Scandinavian countries, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, some countries in Central and Eastern Europe all saw declines. You saw slower growth, but still a rise in Germany, France, and the UK. And the question is, does this mean cord cutting has finally arrived in Europe? It hasn't really been a thing there the way it has in the United States, but Netflix is launching in 6 European countries in September, including Germany. You're starting to see public broadcasters, like in Germany, ARD is building a competitor to Netflix. In Austria, ORF is investing in Netflix competitor Filmit. These are state broadcasters saying, "Oh crap, we need to get ahead of this."
You know, I wish we had more time to investigate, but I wonder how popular as a percentage cable adoption became in Europe to begin with.
It's never been as popular as it has been in the United States.
Well, because I remember when I was a kid, we spent a year and a half living in Norway, and we were an outlier. I think it was an expat thing. Like anyone who wasn't from around, you wanted to have English-speaking channels,
Sure.
and so you'd pay extra to do that. But I remember it being way more expensive than in the United States, having way less choices and getting less out of it. It's interesting because I don't know if now is an indication that that the momentum is faltering for cable adoption, or if it's truly a cord cutting. I mean, my vibe was that I didn't get that when I was in Europe, people were really fired up about television, full stop. And so to hear that we're seeing a slowdown in the adoption of cable, I am hesitant to immediately say, that means our revolution's working over there as well.
When were you in Europe, living in Europe, and got that impression?
25 years ago. So, I mean, it was long enough.
So for the past 25 years, cable adoption has been growing at a strong rate.
Right.
Even though it hasn't been growing at the rate of the United States, even though it's not nearly as popular to pay for TV because of these strong state broadcasters in most cases,
right.
I would suspect, it has been growing. It has been something growing. And now, suddenly, why in 2014 do we start to see the decline or the slowing of the growth?
And in that regard, you're probably right. I guess what I was trying to say is I had, in my time in Europe, a distinct impression that there was a big difference between the worship of pop culture and mass broadcast that we have in the U.S. You did not feel that in Europe, or I did not feel that.
I guess all I'm saying is I bet you can control for that and still show that there's a cord-cutting revolution
I hope so.
amongst a smaller percentage of the population.
Right. Well, and I think in many ways it's that cord never, when you have, a society where there's a political party based on the Pirate Bay or whatever, there's just a general well, of course you just torrent it or whatever. There are people who are now in their 20s who their entire life, it has never occurred to them to pay for cable.
What's significant, I think that really points out what's significant about this IHS study is the people who've not been like that. The people who've been like, sure, I am wealthy enough to pay for cable television, I'm going to do it, are not doing it in as large a number as they used to.
Yeah, well, I guess, and again, you know what? And going back, if I was going to project, if I was an expat, and I guess we experienced this when I went and visited my parents in Venezuela, as long as they had decent internet, I didn't care what their TV, options were.
Yeah,
it's like that's and this is even in the late 90s.
It's starting to affect that calculation even over there. Well, you mentioned earlier that we have people who watch the show.
It's a great segue.
Yeah.
This is your finest segue.
And some of those people support the show.
Well, I mean, you say people who support the show. I call them our bosses. You know, they're in charge of us. We answer to them directly.
I call them Los Jefes.
Yeah, did I ever tell you about my theory of artistic honesty when it comes to magic performances? And this will loop around. It'll make sense in a moment, right? No. Okay. The most dishonest magic performance that I've ever given or seen given is a performing at a corporate holiday party, because the person who hires you doesn't care how good you are. They care about whether or not you piss off the boss or whatever, right? People
they need you to show up and not offend anyone
and be clean. Yes, exactly. The people watching don't care how good your performance is. They're there for the beer and to hang out and to open presents and get free loot or whatever. And
so as long as you don't get in their way,
exactly.
They're like, yeah, whatever, that's fine.
Get in, get out. Make me chuckle a couple times. Great, thank you, Seinfeld. And there are people who make a very comfortable living. You can do that game. You can please somebody spending someone else's money for entertainment that nobody's going to watch. That exists on the other end of the spectrum. The most honest kind of performance there is street performing, because nobody owes you your time. They didn't come to show up to see you. They're on their way to something else, and you've got to be so good that you capture their attention, you drive them to watch and enjoy, and then at the end, you have to casually say, if you liked it, you may support me. And then whatever money they give you is the most authentic, true artistic thing. And in that regard, that is what's been possible at patreon.com/Cordkillers, is we are street performing, not because it's the quickest way to get rich, but I love the fact that it is our most honest artistic endeavor. Pass that hat. Hold that hat out.
Come on, fill it up. Fill it up, people. Let's go.
If you enjoy what we do and you would like to become one of our bosses, head on over to patreon.com/Cordkillers. You'll get to address us like your employees, and we'll treat you like our bosses.
We should do the show on the street.
At the bars and on the street, mainly at the bars. We should go straight to the bars.
We don't want to totally rip off Scam School, so we'll stay off the street.
Yeah.
We'll just do it at the
at the pubs and in the loo.
And in the alleyways.
At the pubs and in the alleys. We'll do that.
All right. It's time for Signals Intelligence. Thank you, patrons. This happens because of you. You made this Signals Intelligence.
It's your fault. This whole show's your fault. That's got to be our new angle.
That's our new fallback position.
Blame patrons is our new initiative.
Hulu has started to become less annoying, in my opinion. Hulu for Android just got an update, and an update's coming for iOS, they say, but it's only available on Android right now, that lets you watch most of the free content that you can also watch on the desktop on your mobile device.
So here's the thing. This, by all accounts, we should be like, yay, hooray, more freedom, Hulu, embracing more possibilities. And yet, you and I are not the biggest fans of Hulu as a platform. Like, does this just make you slightly less annoyed at them, or are you genuinely enthused?
I'm not genuinely enthused. I'm more than slightly less annoyed, though. Like, because one of my big beefs is it's confusing to me why I would pay for Hulu Plus when you're faking the positives of it, right?
Yeah.
I can just go to my desktop and send it to my television. This doesn't change that main objection, but the fact that they're willing to go, okay, really, like ad-supported stuff on a mobile device with still ad-supported stuff, and it's a false distinction to separate mobile from the desktop. And actually, probably the real reason they're doing it is like mobile is hot. Everybody wants advertising on mobile, and Hulu's like, oh, if we don't give free stuff away, we can't sell as much advertising. So this is the market kind of pushing them into it. But it gives me hope that Hulu will start to rationalize the process here, and eventually maybe have free stuff available on their television apps, like on Apple TV and Roku, at which point they would make sense to me. Like, I pay for Hulu Plus to get a wider selection of things. They're moving towards a more sensible model.
I mean, yeah, I was about to say, this sounds to me like they're kind of giving you exactly what you want, but it's hard. Whatever progress they're making over on this vestigial arm over here is, you're just too busy being outraged over, this whole other half of things.
Well, and you know what I've noticed? I've noticed this for decades now, is that when new technology comes, restrictions are put in place against a fear of what might happen someday when the technology gets better. even though the technology isn't good enough for the fear to actually be rational.
Like human cloning stuff. Like let's start banning stuff right now.
Yeah.
Like,
and then
we can't
as
do
the
these
technology
things.
gets better and you're actually able to do the thing that would cause the fear, the restrictions loosen up.
Yeah.
Because companies start to see the opportunity now that it's real. My example being at Tech TV, and I've mentioned this a bunch, so if those of you who heard me say it, I apologize. But at Tech TV, we were only allowed to put 5 minutes of video for every half hour of programming as a part of our cable carriage contracts. The cable companies were like, no. You can't put all of your video online or people will just watch that and they won't want to subscribe to cable.
Right.
Even though you're talking 1999 when what you were watching was a real video stream that was postage stamp size.
Yes.
Right?
Well,
and now as we've gotten to where like I could actually watch high definition video streaming over the internet, no problem. We're seeing whole shows being put on, and now even to mobile.
Well, we ended up talking about this last night at the bar.
And on the street.
And on the street, where we were talking about how people freak out that you don't cover so much of your ideas or protect them with intellectual property benefits for DTNS. And yesterday I had a fantastic conversation. I got to meet Max Temkin, the creator of Cards Against Humanity, and I talked to him about the similarities between what he's doing by giving away Cards Against Humanity for free, and then saying, or if you want to throw money in my face, do this, and how that's exactly what I'm doing with Scam School. To the criticism from some magicians, they feel like that I have to charge for my lessons or their devalues or whatever. Yeah. But meanwhile, it's like there's so, I think it's the reverse. You just give it away. And then it's like, hey, do you feel like paying me $13 for the exact same 80 tricks you just learned on video? Great. Then here's a book. And the book sells very well. It's amazing.
It's what I do is devil's advocate it. And the devil's advocate to that is that's easy to do when you're going from making nothing on selling the tricks to making something. If you are the cable company who's like, we actually make all of our money selling video subscriptions, I can see the fear. I think it's irrational. I think you need to think it through and go, really? The postage stamp size video from Real Video is a problem?
Yeah.
Like almost zero people are going to actually watch it or be able to make it stream on their dial-up connections, and yet you don't want to allow it. Meanwhile, once it gets to high definition video and they see it, and all of a sudden advertisers are like, hey, we want to buy ads on the desktop and on the mobile. They go, great. Yeah, no problem. We aren't fearful anymore because we're going to be able to make money off this.
I mean, that's the thing. 5-10 years from now, it will be clear. It has to go this way. And I understand that we keep running up against the technology will change. Cultural attitudes will change. The one thing that we don't know will change is the hard and fast, black and white, written contracts that are mucking everything up. And we talked about how part of the reason that Nielsen is having difficulty tracking all of the Hulu views, to us, a view is a view is a view. But to Nielsen, it's only a view if everybody watches it and sees the same commercial in the same context at the same time.
And everyone has agreed that they will pay for that view.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so I understand that legally there's intractable aspects to it. However, there's got to be, I could, in as little as 5 or 10 years, I could picture some kind of collective where people who want to create good television, good movies, good art will just buy into a union, right? Some kind of after a SAG type environment where it's like, you're a guy who makes a thing and you join our club. We will have a fee. There will never be ads associated with these things. And we will know everything everybody's watching at all times. Yeah. We'll know when somebody grabs a clip of your thing and uses it in another. And we will put the automatic royalty in there and we'll just pay you. And you will have actual like.
It's called sound exchange on the audio side, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it already exists for music.
Right, yeah. Right. And it's like, I gotta believe that, and it won't come from fixing the old system. I gotta believe that it's going to be as what was the minor leagues of the internet graduates and becomes mainstream media producers. And we're already seeing that through people trying to play Monopoly and acquire all these guys. I feel like something independent will create out of that.
Yeah. A lot of people are thinking the same way. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Time to gear up now, because how are you going to watch all this stuff if you don't have gear? Watch it. Awfully hard.
I want to do for
don't have a
Halloween.
monitor.
We're gonna have to do Fear Up, where it's like we just scare the crap out of people.
Oh, we could just talk about like false fears, like piracy is going to kill movies. Apple TV is getting CNBC and Fox now, which isn't that big of a news item on its own. But if you noticed, if you've been following Cordkillers, every week Apple TV is adding like 2 or 3 channels. They've got too many freaking channels. Like, what is going on with the Apple TV? Because and on the one hand, it's great, right? I now have lots of news sources to choose from. I've got ABC News, Sky News, Fox News. I have lots of program opportunities from ABC, Fox, NBC. I've got CNBC News now as well. But it is a nightmare to flip through that main screen because they're all just there in a big mass.
Now, and to be clear, these are live stations or stuff where you could watch?
Some of them are, some of them aren't.
Ugh.
Here's what's interesting. Most of the news ones have a live station. Sky News, you can watch live. ABC News has a live feed. Every time I turn it on, they're doing some stupid story that's not news at all.
Yeah.
So it's not very well managed, that live feed. I bet it's just kind of like automatically filling in the gaps from library material. So it's not curated very well. Because I know when I watch ABC News now, when it's live on the internet, they have great stuff. ABC News is a good organization. So I'm a little disappointed in how that live stream goes. But yeah, I mean, most of this is on demand when you're talking about the non-news stuff. When you're talking about Yahoo Screen or AMC, or I'm sorry, Andy. Didn't mean to get people excited. There's no AMC yet.
So
And there's lots of sports, NBA, MLB.
The problem is that we have just this very quickly what was supposed to be the solution to the cable TV dilemma, which is a bunch of channels and just random crap being thrown in your face that's difficult to navigate and difficult to find the stuff that you care about. The solution that we've all prayed for has been an Apple TV. And now that Steve Jobs is in heaven, maybe he can grant our wish. But now, instead, we're getting all these options, and Apple TV is looking more and more like the cable television miserable experience that we had.
That's the thing, right? Everybody wants to be able to pick their own apps. Like this idea of like, okay, I want the Sky News app and the MLB TV app and the History Channel app and the PBS app. And I'll take the ABC and the Netflix and the HBO Go. Good. I can't do that on Apple TV yet. And that might be changing. My guess is we're going to see a new Apple TV interface that allows you to do folders and hide channels and select things. It's got to.
Here's what I think is going to happen. And again, this is me, an idiot, making up stuff. And maybe this is just wish fulfillment or whatever. I think that we're going to move away from this service, and I think we're going to get a more Siri-like experience. And there will be some kind of 10 to 15 minute interview that you do. There's software that was developed during the Cold War to figure out how both the Soviet bloc and the Americans could both feel like they got the better side of disarmament talks. And one of the things they figured out is it's very difficult to analyze, like, well, which do we care about, 35 missiles and 5 nuclear subs, or do we care about 2 aircraft carriers and whatever? Because it's all too much at once. Human brains aren't just built to do that. So instead, they developed software that would give just either or choices. Would you rather have, 5 subs or 2 aircraft carriers? They're like, well, that's easy. And it just and in a sequence of either or decisions, it would come up to like, well, turns out this is what you want, and you will feel like this will be acceptable to you, and you'll feel like you did better and you came out ahead. I think we're going to have some kind of experience like that with our television, where
there have been a bunch of apps that do that. When you set them up for the first time, they say, okay, tell us a little bit. Do you like this show or this show? Like, I've seen them do that exact thing.
Yeah, Netflix does it, and it does pretty good on its ratings or whatever. But I think that even then it feels like you're taking a test or whatever. But if it's just a bunch of binary decisions, it's like the 20Q game where amazingly it could get 20 questions. You're shocked that it figured out that you were thinking of the Venture Brothers or whatever.
Right.
Like, that's what's going to happen. It's going to be 20 Qs. You're going to answer 20 questions, and then it's going to be Pandora. Like, basically, you're going to say TV on, and it will know and it will prioritize. And every so often, it'll ask you a quick question. They're like, hey, I played this because I thought you would like it more than the other thing. Should I have reversed that?
That's within apps, though.
I
mean that the Pandora system that they're talking about. There's people exploring that.
Yes,
and trying that.
What I'm saying, again, all of this is all shit that exists. But what I'm suggesting is the layer on top that allows you to feel dumb. Like, I don't want to open a thing and configure a thing, and I don't want to think of it that way. I want somebody to come to me, take 5 minutes of my time, say, I got a few questions for you. Blah, 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 blah. Now TV's perfect for you.
Yeah.
Like that. And I
Not
do think
coming
that's
this autumn.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm saying. A year or two out, I highly predict a successful property we'll figure out.
But there are tons of rumors that Apple TV is getting a refresh this autumn. And I can almost guarantee you that it's not going to be a television or some Apple TV video service, although I could be wrong about that. I think it's going to be the first big redesign of the Apple TV interface since they went from this thing, white boxy thing. Since they went from that to the black box, they had a design. Which,
by the way, that looks shockingly close to your Mac.
It
that
is.
A Mac
It's
Mini
just a
over
freaking
there?
Mac Mini is what that original Apple TV was. But yeah, so I think they're going to have the second major redesign of Apple TVs coming.
So and when's the next major announcement? Like in September?
Well, Apple hasn't said anything, but all the word on the street is they're this close. The people familiar with the matter are this close to being able to confirm that their sources say that. Yeah. So we'll probably get something in September.
Right on.
All right, let us move it right along, folks. You know what I want?
What?
I want a deal.
Look, I don't know about a deal, but do you have your wallet on you?
You know, I did.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't.
Yes. Luckily, I have your wallet.
Oh,
and
magic.
You know what? Your wallet is weak. It's weak sauce. Do you know why? It doesn't have. How's this going to help you in an emergency? I mean, it's got money in it. What good is that? For goods and services. No, we're doing we're doing our first bundle. I actually have big news. You guys know that kind of what keeps the backbone alive. You know, obviously the donations keep things alive, but also when people buy stuff, Sword and Laser Anthology, or they buy stuff on the scam stuff side of things, it helps allow us to grow. We just rehired John Tilton full time. He quit. He left. He went and did a job in Orlando. I hit him up. I was like, hey, can you work part-time for us? And he's like, yeah, sure. And I was like, hey, really would love it if you'd quit your job and come back and work for us full-time. And he just did it. He just moved back this week, and he's already gotten to work. He put together this new bundle. We got a new product in there. It's 3 items. We're calling it the Badassify Your Wallet Bundle. So it's got 3 items. One, it's got the get out of jail free card that we have a whole routine to help you get out of speeding tickets that we've talked about.
I talked to a cop who was like, I don't know if that would work.
Well, you could talk to me who did it 10 times in a row.
And it worked. I know.
We got the all access card. It's got like a saw blade. It's got this special thing to open cardboard boxes. It's got the hex screwed nut and all this stuff. It's got a sun compass, which I still don't know how that works, but I'm excited about it. Anyway, and then finally, the newest one is, get this, a credit card that folds into a knife. It is, and I should have brought mine on me. It's a credit card that folds into a knife.
Does it still work as a credit card?
No. I mean, it's a credit card sized object that turns into a knife. And probably
you could actually pay with it too.
You know what? Here's the deal. You try to pawn it off on someone, and if they don't take it, you fold it into a knife. And you're like, this works.
Do not use to threaten.
Anyway, we bundle them all together for like $14.99, and that's the biggest special right now at scamstuff.com. Just know that Scam Stuff really is run out of my garage, and we really do appreciate every few bucks you spend our way.
And don't forget, we're under surveillance. I mean, that's the next segment.
Yeah, we are. We weren't now. We are now.
This is a segment about things you can watch under surveillance. Get it? First trailer for The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, is out. That was another Comic-Con release, but now it's out. Like, we saw it before Guardians of the Galaxy last night.
So, okay, I'm sorry to say that. Like, I liked The Lord of the Rings a lot. I have not watched any of the Hobbit movies, and I haven't gotten into it. And I liked. What's funny is, in the book side of things, I loved The Hobbit. Hated the Lord of the Rings books because they were tedious and slow. But so I never finished them. But loved Lord of the Rings movies.
Don't write me an email about defending Lord of the Rings. It's just making an analogy.
No. I'm telling you the truth about me personally. So but all that, neither here nor there. They're building it up like this is the epic end of a thing. Like, if I remember the book correctly, I remember they killed the dragon, they got the gold, and then they just sort of grumbled and argued.
No, there was a battle. There's a battle of the
okay.
five armies is a real thing.
Yeah.
But it's sort of a denouement battle.
Right.
It's like, we've killed the dragon. Oh, but are we going to squabble amongst ourselves? Is there going to be a battle of five armies? And it starts and there is a battle, but it's more of a, we shouldn't be fighting over this kind of thing. Not
right?
Here is our glorious battle, which is what it seems to be according to this trailer, which frankly, if your criticisms of the early Hobbit movies where they were too slow and too silly, this trailer is attempting to convince you that this is going to be an epic battle. They actually use the song that Pippin sings in
Lord of the
Return
Rings.
of the King as the music over the
I
battle
didn't catch
scenes.
that. That's awesome.
To kind of give you that connection of like, if you loved the epic battle of Return of the King, you're going to love the Battle of the Five Armies from The Hobbit. And again, it just comes down to that. What is your expectation? Because for me, I'm like you. The Hobbit, the Battle of the Five Armies isn't about being an epic battle to me, the way I read it. It was about a metaphor of like, when we win, we need to win gracefully.
Well, that's just
and
it.
Not,
it's like,
and not squabble.
Yeah, when you have the prize, now comes the betrayal and the argument or whatever. And it seems like they dodged that bullet. It wasn't like one side slaughtered everyone and took the treasure home,
So, but that is what this movie is going. No, this movie isn't going to be slaughter somebody to take the treasure home, but this movie is going to be about the battle of the five armies.
Yeah,
it's a battle.
It's problematic.
It's an epic battle movie. Peter Jackson loved making Lord of the Rings so much he wanted to do it again. That is exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Because he made a 3-part movie that involves Legolas and elves. He pulled all these people in like Galadriel that he had fun working with that aren't in The Hobbit. He's like, I want to be on set with Cate Blanchett again. She's awesome. Who wouldn't? And so this is Peter Jackson's wish fulfillment.
How for the record, how is Liv Tyler getting hotter the older she gets?
Liv Tyler's not in The Hobbit, but you're talking about her in The Leftovers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Which I thought of because of Lord of the Rings.
I believe it involves the same deal that made Robert Johnson a fantastic blues musician.
She met at the crossroads.
She went on down to the crossroads.
Then she painted a picture. The picture gets more hideous over time.
Who has Liv Tyler's picture?
All right, I say we move into the front lines.
Front lines!
Front lines, where we have 60 seconds to talk about various stories that are smaller, and if we find out that they're bigger than we thought, we can take extensions. We have 3 of them apiece. Netflix and AT&T came to an interconnection agreement in May that they didn't tell anybody about, but those connections are now turning up, and it's become public knowledge. And Netflix has now made agreements with Verizon, Comcast, and AT&T to have direct interconnections to help their speed.
So what you're saying is all speeds are saved and everything's great for everyone.
If you're on AT&T and you've been having problems with Netflix buffering, that should go away over the next few months.
Yeah, that's the funny part is I actually have been on AT&T and it's been amazing. Now, granted, I'm in an outlier giga fiber.
I'm on Verizon Fios, and Netflix has been fine for me too. So the thing is, like, not everybody is on the congested interconnection points. Not every interconnection point is congested. The internet is more than one router.
Yes.
And so your mileage may vary.
No, I guess that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump straight into the next story.
Okay.
Since XBMC doesn't even work on the last 2 versions of the Xbox, they're changing the name of the Media Center software to Kodi. I guess
apparently Kodi started because they were trying to make the play, pause, rewind buttons into a word, and you can make the word Kodi with that. But then they admitted, like, yeah, but the logo was really ugly, so we just kept the name Kodi, but we don't try to make it look like play, pause, rewind.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. I guess here's the question: like, was XBMC suffering from a branding problem? Was it?
What they were saying that I've read is they were suffering from a support problem, where people would ask in the forums, what does XBMC stand for? And the XBMC folks were like, it doesn't stand for anything anymore. And other people were like, it stands for Xbox Media Center, which is what it stood for when it was created on the original Xbox as a mod.
Yep.
But they haven't made an Xbox 360 or an Xbox One version. And so they're having all these people taking up time saying, like, why don't you work on the Xbox? And they're like, we'll just change our name.
All right. That's the solution.
Netflix saves another show. They actually partially saved season 3 of The Killing when they helped AMC make it. And now season 4 is exclusively a Netflix original. The Killing goes live for its short final season now. You can go watch it.
This is amazing, and it's amazing because it's a non-story. Like, this would have been our lead story 4 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, 4 years ago would have been unthinkable, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? And now we're like I don't know. It's like saying Bonnie gave another pint of blood and saved a baby's life. I'm like, yeah, she does that all the time. She gives blood a lot.
Practically bloodless.
I know. Bonnie's got that baby blood, O negative. That's.
Brian's camera is frozen.
I mean, it's great. It's great news, and it's even greater that it's so unremarkable that we're burying it in the middle of the front lines.
Yes.
Oh, wait, so that's me then. Sony has added 3D Blu-ray playback support as part of its latest PlayStation 4 firmware update. Xbox One is getting it sometime this month too.
Remember when the specs came out and they're like, it doesn't even play 3D Blu-ray, what the hell? And then it came out and nobody cared.
Well, but you know, and even then, like, we all made noise like, what? It doesn't do 4K video games, only 4K movies. None of us, we don't care.
And the fact that they've actually gone to the trouble to add it feels like a Pyrrhic victory. Like, hey, 3D Blu-ray is here for you too.
You know, it's I tell you what, man, my normal default move here is to take a giant dump on 3D and Blu-ray and physical media and blah, 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 blah. But all I could think about, and spoiler alert, we're going to talk about this in spoiler in time. I had a very good 3D experience recently, and it makes me believe.
But would you want to watch it on your 3D TV?
No
with
way.
Your glasses
3D
on?
TVs continue to be stupid and dumb.
Finally, a 21-minute featurette called Prelude to Axanar is out for you to watch at the Axanar Kickstarter site. If you don't know, Axanar is a film about the first major Federation Klingon war. It's in the Star Trek universe, but it's an indie. It stars Tony Todd, Kate Vernon, Michael Hogan, Richard Hatch.
Wait, Michael Hogan?
Yeah. Well, and Kate Vernon, Mrs. Ty.
Wow.
As well. Yeah. And Richard Hatch. It's all Galactica up in there.
Dude, that's amazing.
And J.G. Hertzler and Gary Graham are in it too.
This is huge. All of a sudden, I went from zero to all in just then. Now, being an independent production, I assume it will be a fairly low budget thing?
No, it looks like they're trying to kickstart, obviously, because they need more budget. Alec Peters is a guy who works for CBS in the archiving of Star Trek, and he has been allowed to do this. CBS has been very cool about allowing indie projects like this. They're trying to raise $100,000. They've already got $180,000.
I'll tell you what,
and
man.
they've made a 20-minute move. They're going to make a full-length feature film. This was just to get them off the ground.
There was a lot of great actors in the new Battlestar, but Michael Hogan was my standout favorite for sure.
No, it's a great cast, and it looks the prelude is sort of a look back at Axanar, where they're doing interviews with people.
Like a people's history
documentary
type.
thing about it. It's really interesting. It's really interesting where Star Trek has gone. I'm taking my extension. It's really interesting where Star Trek has gone.
Well, they have to.
There's lots of really high quality independent productions, from the new Voyages, Phase 2, rather, to the one that
it continues to be shocking to me that such a valuable franchise can continue to let children run rampant with its IP, and that they understand the value of it, and we've seen little stories here where it's like, you know, this team worked together, or the guy who used to work on this thing did it, but like I'm still waiting for, and maybe this will be the one, an indie production that just, you know, borrows the IP, plays in the universe, and is so good that they just say, welcome to the family. You're our next AAA title, you know?
Yeah. I know Michael Dorn, who played Worf, has been trying to do that. He's been trying to do that very thing and get a new TV series off the ground.
Man, that dude really loves...
TVZ Gone pointed out Star Trek Continues is out there. There's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, right on. Hey, man, let's check in on the movie draft.
Or as we call it, congratulations, Amtrekker. Now, in other movie drafts, the fact that Guardians of the Galaxy smashed the August opening record with 94 million, becoming the third biggest opening of the summer behind Transformers and Captain America, would have been big news. But in the movie draft itself, it not going to make enough difference for Slash Film.
No, unfortunately, Slash Film is all the way in last place, and nobody. When we did the draft, we thought that Slash Film had the winning slate, right? I mean, we thought they were going to totally take it, but right now they're at $411 million. That's even after the $100 million opening for Guardians of the Galaxy. They would need 300 more million in order to overtake Amtrekker, which is not going to happen. TMS is out of movies. I guess they got Get On Up, which
Slash Film had The Amazing Spider-Man 2, $202 million, and Guardians of the Galaxy, which is probably going to do $200 million by the looks of it, if not a lot more. And that wasn't enough.
Yeah. Well, and they also, but to be honest, they Hercules vastly underperformed what we thought it was going to do at the time. The Purge Anarchy we knew would be a base hit. But Hercules right now is at $52 million. I mean, it's like I don't even know if it's going to crack $100 million.
Yeah. Next week is the final week with your own film, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles coming out.
All it needs to do is $260 million.
Plus whatever Guardians does next week.
Well, actually, we're ahead of Slash Film, so that doesn't matter. I'm just saying for us to get ahead of Amtrekker.
Oh, right.
I think we're going to end up with a respectable finish. I think Night Attack might end up in third place. No, maybe second. I don't know. Maybe
you have a shot. You have a shot at third.
We'll
you
see.
could catch DTNS. You could catch us.
Yeah. At any rate, congratulations to Team Amtrekker. You guys completely slayed it. That was amazing. And
only spending $93, actually, tied
also
for the
drunk
least.
And not even knowing what they were buying. That was amazing.
Going to be my strategy next year.
Well, and to be honest, and this is the thing, is that my strategy has always been a bunch of high risk, low price tickets, saying that the one thing I know for sure is that the 6 teams or players playing can't know everything. So go for what's undervalued and what could be a surprise. And instead, to be honest, we just banked on a stud with Transformers, and it just vastly underperformed. It
was the number 2 grossing movie of the summer. Still didn't do enough for you.
No, well, I mean, before that, nothing had done less than $300 million in that entire Transformers franchise, and this one is the poorest performing in the history of the franchise.
So let's see what's been actually on our screens, because it's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, because spoiler alert. This morning I watched The Leftovers. We'll talk about the specifics, but I liked it a lot, and I full on cried during it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I forgot what the episode was about.
We'll talk about it. No. I mean, it's not even a spoiler. There is a dad who's having a difficult time connecting with his daughter, and finally acknowledges that his wife has truly left him, and he feels alone. And strangely, that resonated to me, a man who's 6 weeks away from his daughters, sitting in Los Angeles alone.
I can see where that might hit you in the gut.
I loved it. But the big news is I watched Orphan Black. We'll talk about like 4 or 5 episodes of that. Fully into Orphan Black now. I get it. I'm deeply in love with all the different various attractive iterations of the main character. And we saw Guardians of the Galaxy last night.
Right.
Spoiler alert. I think we liked it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I really, really did. And the debates that I've been having with Eileen, who was with us when we saw it as well, have been like, how close to the Avengers is it? And I mean, it's not quite as good as the Avengers, but would you put it in front of Thor? Would you put it in front of Iron? Like, we did
that exact same thing last night, and it was fascinating because Jason, of all of us who went, Jason was the most familiar with the source material, and he was the most disappointed.
Yeah. And he hurried to say, I liked it a lot.
Right.
But he was disappointed.
He actually placed it slightly below in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not counting Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, or X-Men. We placed it, it's better than all the X-Men movies, for sure. Maybe he put it tied with X-Men First Class, and I didn't see Days of Future Past. But
it's
I like
than Days of Future Past.
Okay. I think X-Men First Class is the best of all the X-Men movie.
Yeah.
Right. At any rate, it was a fun game to do that. But I liked it. to me, it's second place. It's Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy. And the only reason the Avengers has the edge is because the Avengers spent 15 years of my life establishing the characters and leading up to this one moment.
We'll talk more about it in Spoiler in Time, as well as episode 211. That's season 2, episode 11 of The Shield, which I watched. I also watched The Leftovers. The one thing that we won't talk about in Spoiler Time that I watched is I finished up Rome. Which was the HBO-BBC collaboration they did a few years back. And that's been available on Amazon Prime Instant, along with a bunch of other HBO content. It was really good for the first season. Really good.
You said a lot. You said a lot just then.
And, well, first of all, they replaced the character of Augustus Caesar, Octavian Caesar, in season 2 with someone who actually looks more like Octavian Caesar did. But I was like, that's just you've built me up with this other guy, and they're not the same.
Can I pull back the curtain real quick on like how much Rome fever you got? Like last week, I came over and I look on your table, and you're like, oh hey, want one of these? And you slide over, and you're like, they're Roman coins. Like actual, and I look and I'm like, oh my God, this is like smelted copper from the Roman age. He's like, and you're like, it's late Roman Empire. like to defend it. It was amazing.
Yeah, no, I really, really was into it. And they did a fantastic job of attempting to capture that culture and its differences. Like being called skinny is an insult.
Yeah.
You know, and killing is bad, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
You know, and the very Catholic nature of the Roman religions. This is pre-Jesus time,
pre-Constantine.
Right?
Yeah.
This is BC, but there's a very Roman Catholic air to a lot of the mysteries of the various gods and goddesses, and I just think they did a great job capturing it. The story starts to fall apart. They had a really good job telling the story of Julius Caesar. And then I know in the season 2, they were trying to tell the rise of Octavian Caesar, and they just didn't do it as well, in my opinion.
I mean, it might fundamentally not be as good a story. There's a reason that the Julius Caesar story resonates with all of us and that we all know it.
Let's see. Let's finish up with some dispatches. Are they from the front?
Let's find out. What? Wait.
They're all written by Victorian ladies.
Oh, they are. They are from the front. Here we go. Jake brought up, and I think we'll spend a lot of time talking about this. Jake wrote us personally. He didn't send it to the show email. He says, I remember you used to do a "this is illegal, unethical, or both" bit on your show.
That was on
which, by the way, we should bring that back.
Yeah.
I really like that.
My only problem with that bit, and we should bring it back, is that it's always illegal. The questions, the questions are always illegal. It's all a question of whether it's ethical or not. That's what makes it fun.
So I had a question for you. Hypothetically, if I were to purchase digital copies of movies and TV shows and then go download them off a torrent site to have DRM-free backups, is that cool? I know technically it's illegal, but I feel like you're paying for it already. It's not hurting anything to have a clean copy, especially because somebody could just buy Blu-rays and rip them essentially to achieve the same thing, which is totally legit. It's not legit. That's the problem, is that legally, if you rip your Blu-rays, you are breaking encryption, which is...
Unless they are un-DRM'd Blu-rays.
Which don't exist.
Yeah, probably don't. I don't want to say they don't exist, but they would be rare. Breaking the encryption on Blu-rays to rip them is violating the Digital Millennium Copyright Act in the United States anyway. It's different in different places. So if you're not in the United States, it may be totally legit for you. But it is not here in the U.S. And going and getting that backup is definitely, as Jake acknowledges, not okay. You know, you didn't pay for that extra copy. You only paid for your Blu-ray copy.
Right.
But
however, the Betamax decision says that you are entitled to a legal backup.
Well, yeah, but you can't break copyright encryption, nor can you go and like download it. Again, the question,
this is the other thing.
The question
he's not breaking copyright encryption to get a legal
but he's
backup.
gaining an unauthorized copy.
So
it's going to be it's not going to be legal. The question is it ethical? You know, because the thing about ethics is, are you actually depriving someone of something?
The only case I can make for it being unethical is that by using a system that is subversive, you are legitimizing that platform. But I don't know that it is. BitTorrent, had a nasty reputation 10 years ago, but nowadays, it's where we get our Linux distributions and so on. And nowadays we've got, Netflix threatening to switch over to BitTorrent to handle their traffic issues. Me personally, you have paid money to the artist and you are not distributing, you got your backup through a black market. So somewhere along the way, somebody was nasty. But guess what? There are some nasty assholes who made this thing. There's somebody who was, who's drinking on the company dime and filled out an expense report. There was corruption to create this thing to begin with. So I don't know that all of a sudden you have the onus, for having gone to a black market to get a backup copy of it.
I'll tell you where I think it becomes hard to argue it's not ethical is if your Blu-ray came with a digital copy. Right? Because the argument could be, now we sold you a Blu-ray copy, but our business model is that we encrypted that so you can't make a backup because we also want to charge you a different amount for a digital copy.
Right.
And you going and getting a pirated version of that digital copy undermines our business model. But if that Blu-ray, as they often do, comes with a digital copy that you can download, then it's like, well, okay, so I'm just downloading a different digital copy.
Man, but that's a slippery slope because like Bruce S. in the chat room is saying, well, I think I've paid for cable and the shows they're in, so downloading the same shows, how's that different?
Right, but you haven't paid for every show on cable.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's a myth.
You paid for the option.
You paid for the right to access television.
When you walk into the Chinese buffet, right. You don't own all of that food. You don't get to say,
you can't load it up into your car and drive home with it. Yeah.
And worse yet, walk over like, hey, you stop. That's all this mine.
All right. We got another email here from Steven. Gentlemen, it's your boss. Hi, boss. How you doing? Tom, that's double for you at DTNS. Hi, boss. Hi, boss. Hey, I thought you might want to hear my cord cutting experience. I unplugged the DVR and took it down to the Time Warner building on Mopac in Austin, Texas. I did this so that I would not get the counter offer over the phone, which I have taken at least twice over the years. The wait was about 45 minutes, which really wasn't that bad.
It's
so
terrible.
Sad
it's
that
terrible.
Is not that bad.
Yeah, right.
He's right. It's not that bad, relatively speaking. I told them that I wanted to cut off the cable and phone and keep the internet. The lady was nice, and then she told me that I would be billed $40 to turn the service off. I said, that doesn't make sense. And she said, yes, it does. She said that the $40 was to have someone come out to my house to make sure that the basic cable was not still coming into my house. She said that I could dispute it over the phone with the billing department if I wanted to. I probably will, but it just gave me a sick feeling in my stomach leaving that place knowing that they got the last laugh on me with a $40 charge. I guess that $40 is just 2 months rental on that box I just dropped off. Anyway, happy Cordkillers.
Here is an astonishing trick that works for me all the time. Not all the time. A surprising amount of the time. With genuine joy in your heart, with a smile on your face, with no malice, no bitterness, no upsetness whatsoever, just say, "Oh yeah, no, that's not going to happen," and then just say, "You do whatever you want. You will never get that money from me." And then it's like and then they'll want to say something like, "I'm sure there's something you got to do to talk to a supervisor or whatever, but just know that this will not happen, and whatever you have to do to understand that's just do that." And it's astonishing how often that works.
You got to have acting chops to make that happen, because the way you did it just now wouldn't work. But I've seen you do that kind of thing, and you've really got to come across as like, yeah, I don't. This is not about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm playing it like I'm a badass, and that doesn't work. And I don't do it that way.
You've got to be like, oh no, yeah, I'm not gonna have to pay it. So what do we need to do? Like, it's all like, you're in on this with me.
Yes,
because I've seen you do that.
Well, this is the trick, right? Like water finds the easiest path to get downhill. This is a person whose job is to just get you out of their face in the easiest way possible. And this is like, we deal this way with scam school shoots or whatever. People are like, hey, can we just shoot over there? Someone walks over and says like, hi, can we shoot here? No? Oh, okay. And he's like, yeah, they said we could. And I was like, well, how did you ask? And I was like, no, you never ask a yes, no question. You take your problem, you make it their problem, and you ask them how they would handle it. You say, here's the situation. We have to have this shot in the next 20 minutes. We have this footage. All we need is this background. There's this thing here, and they're not letting us do it here. What would you do in my situation? Which is a different thing, because now it's like, what are they going to say? They have two options. They can say, well, I would have gotten a permit or whatever, but they know that if they say that, you're just going to say like, well, yeah, I don't have a permit. So
what do we do now?
So they can either waste their breath, or the easier thing becomes, yeah, fine, do whatever. Just be friendly, be polite, but make it the bigger pain in the butt to not just give you what you want.
The sad thing is that, first of all, not everybody's as good as that as you. And a lot of people, because of the same reason it works, don't want to go through all that to get them to save the 40 bucks.
Can I just give them 40 bucks?
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds like work.
And that's how they get you. It's horrible.
No, I've been there. I've been out of Steve, and I do that. Well, that's a relatively positive story. We got here, Norm says, hey, guys, couple things. One, I got a place in College Station, and I tried the Cut the Cord challenge with Suddenlink. It didn't fare so well. They didn't offer a deal, so I canceled cable. Ended up with my internet only, saving myself $5 a month. Oh, well, which is shocking to me that they're like, all right, whatever, and then they canceled it on it. He says, number two, I have a friend who's interested in cutting the cord, but is looking for the best cording solution for Spanish language channels.
Dish. You might look into what Dish's offerings are. I'm not sure if they're good, but they have an international option that doesn't require you to get cable, and you can get it over the Roku.
Right on. Yeah. All right. Well, cool.
I suggested Roku before I heard the Spanish requirement, but didn't see many Spanish channels on their marketplace, he says. But Dish International does have some Spanish channels. Again, there may not be that many.
Right on. Byron says, hello, killers. I have a few related questions for Brian. Could you talk about what it is that you currently do to watch video, TV, movies, and so on? I would imagine since you cut the cord and now that you're on vacation away from your home setup, it would be easy to just go through the same motions to watch the content you want. Do you find yourself only watching on your laptop, or is there a device that you took with you, Roku, Apple TV, or whatever? Jason brought his PS4, which he set up in the living room, and he set up his Xbox One in his room. I unplugged. There's a TV in my bedroom that I just unplugged the cable box, and this laptop right here, I'll turn something on and I'll plug it in the HDMI and I'll set it down. But it's tough because I've found that I like kind of, and I hate being this guy. Like as a purist, I want to give all the content my full attention, but it's been so long. I have so little time to watch stuff now that I found that I will excuse myself to at least start it if I have it in a corner and am working on email over here. Now, granted, I get like an email in and then I'm just sucked in and I end up just watching. But for some reason, like I have to believe like I'm about to be doing two things at once for a lot of these shows. But the answer is mostly on laptop, mostly plugged into HDMI on the television. And I'll get sucked into whatever Jason's watching downstairs.
JC Calhoun just pointed out, so those of you who've already sent the email, there are no Spanish language channels on Dishworld. I could have sworn there were.
That's crazy.
So there are no TVs built with Roku inside, which was his other question. And apparently Dishworld is bad advice for Spanish language channels here as well.
And that was a fast course correction.
Yeah. They've got Taiwanese, Filipino, Urdu, Telugu, Tamil, Punjabi. I mean, they're all, that's why I was like, oh, of course they have Spanish, but they don't. They have Brazilian channels in Portuguese. No Spanish. I guess they make too much money off the Spanish language channels on Dish.
Wow.
On Dish proper.
That's crazy.
To want to put it into Dish World. So I don't know. We'll throw that one out to the audience then. Anybody got some good cord cutting options for Spanish language channels? For a vast number of them. I know Apple TV has one. And there's a couple in the Roku, as he mentioned. But we'll need cordkillers@gmail.com for more of those.
Yeah. One more. Steve says, hey, guys, with all this talk of net neutrality and bandwidth, how about discussing data caps? I mean, the mega ISPs instituted these 3 to 5 years ago. Are they planning to increase them ever? Shouldn't that be something they do on, say, an annual basis? I mean, internet use is never going to decrease, just something to throw in the pot to stir things up. And I actually think this is a good question because you know, I signed up for this AT&T Gigapower or whatever, and for the first time ever, I was signing up for a service knowing there would be a data cap. But the way they've set up the data caps have been you get a terabyte per month free, and then after that, for every 100 gigabytes, you pay $10 up to 3 times, up to 3 violations. Beyond that, just go as much as you want. Like essentially, they've set up a tiered pricing, and I hope that this is the way more people take it, where it's like it's not that there's a hard deck cap and after that you're paying roaming charges or whatever, but essentially there's like small, medium, and large pricing, and so in my mind I'm like, okay, in my mind I'm going to decide that I pay $130 a month and have no data cap because essentially I do. Although sometimes if I come in under budget, it turns out to only be $99 a month.
Data caps are also not popular, even in monopolistic markets. and companies are having a harder time getting them to stick. Usually when we get an email like this, I've noticed, and I don't know if this is true for Steve or not, it's because they are one of the people in a market where a really unreasonable data cap exists. And those do happen in places around the world, the US and elsewhere. But for the most part, ISPs have shied away from it. Like Comcast put one in that was really high, and then as people starting to hit that cap, then they kind of took it away, and now they're going to put it back, and they've put it back in some markets, but not others. But they're really touchy about it because it's a PR nightmare.
Well, and we're seeing that on the wireless side as well. For example, I was grandfathered into the unlimited bandwidth or the no data caps on my iPhone because I was a first generation buyer, and I was like, you'll get my unlimited from my cold dead fingers. But then at some point, like to the tune where it's like I had unlimited, Bonnie had unlimited, and I when I got an iPad, I started it on a different account so it wouldn't mess with the unlimited. And then at some point they're like, yeah, you're wasting $120 extra every month. We could put all your devices on one plan with 10 gigabyte cap, and if you go beyond it, you just pay an extra whatever fee.
Right.
And by the way, for the last 3 years, your usage has been 3 gigabytes per month. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, screw unlimited.
And here's the interesting thing. The General Accounting Office came out with a survey of ISPs and data caps last week. And what they found is that data caps actually do relieve congestion on wireless carriers, and customers are more understanding of data caps on wireless. Most probably because they've just grown up in that environment. There's always been usage caps on wireless, where there was minutes on your phone. Now it's data for a lot of people,
right?
Who didn't. Unlimited was sort of the early adopters like us, right? Whereas people hate data caps on their home service, on their wired ISP, and the wired ISPs say that it really doesn't have an effect on congestion, having the data caps in place. It's just another way to monetize. And what that tells me is they're trying to figure out how to make data caps palatable, and people like Steve complaining are going to keep it from becoming palatable. So what data caps exist, I think will continue to exist in sort of like really high levels to try to get more money out of people who use things a lot. But as more and more people are using more and more data, it's just going to push them higher and higher, like into the terabyte region, if they are implemented at all. And I know that all the ISPs want to implement data caps. So I would 100% expect to see more data caps in the next couple of years. But I just don't know if they can make them stick. But the sting of them,
I think, is going to go to. I think they're going to be smart about it. I mean, I think, to be honest, they're going to be like speed limits, basically, where it's like, yes, look, let's all try to keep it under 70, guys. And it's like it's really there so that when somebody's doing 95 miles an hour, you're like, okay, look,
that's dangerous.
Yeah, you've got to go to jail.
Right.
Or
unless
whatever.
It's LA where everyone's going 95, then they have to be going 120,
and then it's fine.
And then
Well, and keep in mind, one final note: like if you are out there and you're grandfathered into your unlimited data cap for AT&T, understand that you're likely being throttled if you go over, was it like 2 gigabytes anyway? So it's like for less money, you could have a 10 gigabyte cap and you can go as fast as you want and use as much as you want. And you'll also get tethering and all these other benefits.
You can get a business account too. And in a lot of places, the business account is cheaper than paying the overage on your data cap.
Yeah.
And you get no data cap on most business accounts. There are some, but that's another thing to think about. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to get around the data caps, and people want to get around the data caps. And honestly, the solution is competition, because then there will always be somebody like T-Mobile out there messing with data caps and doing unlimited and weird things.
Dish
like
Network breaking all the rules.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that is it for this episode of Cordkillers. Cordkillers@gmail.com. Please send us emails, especially if you know of good cord cutting options for Spanish language channels. That'd be awesome. You can find us right now for the next few weeks, for the rest of August, on 2:00 p.m., 5:00 Eastern time on diamondclub.tv, and then we'll be back
on
to
Sundays.
On Sundays.
Yeah.
And we'll be back to Mondays starting in the autumn.
Yeah, man, great. I really dig in being in the same room with the.
I know, I'm going to miss that.
So it's tight.
I'll have to, I don't know. You want to come to New York in October?
Sure.
All right.
Why not?
See you then.
Let's move there. See you in October in New York.
Doom, doom, doom.